sticking to the whole veiling thing, I've had no issue explaining to you guys that I have veiled. I've been veiling for the past 3.5, 4 years or so. So this is not something that just the Arabs do, the Muslim do, the women, that is, or Indians or Ethiopians, old school tradition. I wrote the same things here on my Ethiopian Bible, but King James. So I'm gonna be going back and forth in the different Bibles so you guys can see the language difference. But before a woman was given to men, it was custom, even in the Old Testament, because here it's Genesis, that a man had to give to the family camels, horses, jewelry, bracelets, gold or silver, no matter what. If the woman had lost her husband in captivity or in battle, or she was a widow and she was still young, she was able to give children, have children before marriage, before being given to someone else or promised to another man. There was tons of things that us women were supposed to hold on to. Unfortunately, through the time, ages, culture, countries, you name it, we have lost sight of that. But if we are going to go back to biblical tradition and what God taught men since the time of Moses, since the time of Isaiah, Abraham, this is what we we were supposed to be getting. But let's focus now on the veiling. Since I was on a live, I heard someone saying, "Oh, it's a Muslim woman tradition," and I hate to break it to my Muslim brothers and sisters, but no, it is not. Unless you are all supposed to be Christian and you guys just now decided to follow Islam. But we'll get to that on another day. Rebecca and Isaac, this is what they mention of her and the veiling. This is Genesis 24 and verse 64 onwards. And also Rebecca lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted down from the camel. For she had said to the servant, "Who is that man that come in the field to meet us?" And the servant had said, "It is my master." So she took a veil and covered her. This is Rebecca. She got a veil and covered her so Isaac wouldn't see her. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Afterward, Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother, and he took Rebecca, and she was his wife, meaning he had sexual relations with Rebecca, and he loved her. So Isaac was comfort after his mother's death. So I think this is the first mention of a veil. I'm not sure, don't hold me to it, but I know for a fact. So Genesis 24:64 mentions veil. Numbers 5, also in the Old Testament, talks mostly about confessions to the priest. So everybody that has an issue, a lot of my Protestant friends have an issue with confessing. This is not news. This is nothing to do with the Catholic Church. This has all been written since the Old Testament, or what happens when a woman or a man are unfaithful to each other, what they have to do. If they have to go to the church, they have to confess. And the Lord spoke to Moses. This is straight from God since the Old Testament, that we had to go and confess to a high priest. But here also it talks about a woman veiling. I think, "Then the priest shall take the holy water in an earthen vessel and of the dust that it is to floor of the tabernacle, meaning in the church, inside on the altar. Even the priest shall take it and put it into the water. After the priest shall set the woman before the Lord and uncover the woman's head. You are not allowed as a woman to even walk in the church without your head being covered. And put the offering of the memorial in her hands. And it was known as the jealousy offering. And the priest shall have a bitter and cursed water in his hand, and so forth and so on. It's very interesting read for both men and women that are jealous, because jealousy is an evil spirit, and what happens if one of them is caught cheating. So this is also here on Numbers 5 in the Old Testament. I highly recommend everybody to read it. Here also, again, still we're talking about women veiling in the Old Testament. King of Solomon talked about it on his Song of Solomon 5. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved was gone and passed. My heart was gone when he did speak, and I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he answered me not. The watchmen that went about the city found me. They smote me and wounded me. The watchmen of the wells took away my veil from me. I charge you, of daughters of Jerusalem, to find my beloved, that you tell him that I am sick of love. Again, King Solomon is known for being ultimate romantic and wrote poems not only about himself but about others. Interesting that also mentions women had to have their head, because they were damsels. They were pure. It showed modesty. So and that's what they went by. This is more of a parable on Isaiah 47. I'm going to read it from an easier reading, because here it talks about take the millstones and grind meal. Loose thy locks, make bare thy feet, uncover thy legs, and pass through the floods. It's a parable, really. But the wording is different here. They talk about the locks. It says, take the millstones and grind meal, uncover thy locks, meaning make your head, allow your head to be shown, like being exposed, right? This is God's wrath with Babylon and the Chaldeans, so forth and so on. But the entire Old Testament, numerous places. And then there is Corinthians in the New Testament. There is Acts in the New Testament. They all talk about veiling and women veiling. So this is not something that it's supposed to be lost. If you attend a traditional Catholic church, we still have women who veil, who are wearing dresses, who are wearing modest clothing. You do see it way more often in the Middle East, in Indian countries, in Ethiopian countries. But it's definitely something that we should look into as far as us all going back to traditions. It doesn't matter which Bible, they all say the same thing about veiling. So it is not just, it wasn't the Muslim woman that came up with this. Rebecca, I think, I'm not sure 100%, but I believe this is the first mention of veiling in the Old Testament in Genesis.